Welcome to the Friendzy.
Hi, I'm Melissa Carter.
Hi, I'm Jenn Hubby.
And the Friendzy's mission, celebrate friendships over 40.
We believe that women can thrive through authentic relationships, self-discovery, and spiritual exploration.
Our decades-long friendship continues to grow because we are willing to go there and share our truths through life's highs and lows.
And that's why the Friendzy is here to hold space for women who are 40 and older. Yes. And because at this age, your story matters more than ever.
I'm Melissa, and I was a proud member of the color guard at Joseph Brown Elementary School. Now, that usually means you do the flag, right? But our job was also to do the carpool. So everybody is used to teachers doing carpool. As a sixth grader, I was allowed to go out and do the carpool and open the doors for all the kids. So I wore like
I
this
love this.
white sash and belt, like it's very sophisticated. And so,
I
yes,
had
I did that.
no idea. All these years we've been friends, I didn't know you did color
I
guard.
did color guard, and there was one incident. The only time I had a bad thing happen was it was a heavy door, and as I opened it, the handle slipped through my fingers, and the door slammed on the kid trying to get out.
Oh no.
Sorry, but the kid was okay. But it was the front seat. Now that I remember it, they were sitting in the front seat. Life is so different than it was back
So
then. But
different.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
sitting in the front seat, no airbags, probably no seatbelt on. It was fine.
Yeah. While grandma was smoking a cigarette, saying, have a great
Exactly.
day at school,
With no
honey.
filter, with no filter.
Okay. I'm Jenn Hubby. And if there is one thing I could change about my sweet husband, it's the sound of his chewing.
Oh, no.
I'm one of those weird people who can't stand chewing sounds.
No, I don't think you're weird. I don't
You
think you're weird.
don't?
No, is it loud? Is it half mouth full and there's full, like, there's different types of chewing.
It's any sort of mouth noise, truly. It is like nails on a chalkboard to me.
Mhm.
And I worked with someone in radio, our friend Cadillac Jack, who
Yeah.
had a name for it. He said it was called Misophonia.
Misophonia.
I've never looked it up, but I think I have it.
Well, I remember my father was a slurper. That
Oh,
bothered
like a
me.
soup or just anything?
Anything that required, I guess,
Is that
suction was yes, he was a slurper, and that kinda grossed me out. And then my brother, what he didn't realize that if it was especially sweets, that he would, like, say, "Mm." So it'd be like, "Mm." I'm sorry to call him out. I think he still does it, but anyway, uh
He's just enjoying it so much.
yes, exactly. I know, bless his heart,
Well,
but
and I don't think that my husband is like an extra smacker or he doesn't really chew with his mouth open
you
or
can hear the
anything like
crunch.
that. But it's just any mouth noises
Yeah.
drives me nuts. And he's the person I eat with the most. So I think he's the target of most of my anger and irritation over chewing noises. And I will shoot him a look across that dinner table that is like, you better shut up.
Well, all
And he
these
looks at me like, what? I'm just eating dinner.
all the
Poor
examples we
thing.
get, I mean, and no offense to guys, but it seems like it's a guy thing. They do everything they
Maybe.
do is a little aggressive, like, naturally. Like, I don't care what kind of guy you are. It's like they're
Maybe not
walking,
necessarily
they can't
aggressive, but
they
they're
can't
just, like, less worried about politeness than we are.
I don't know
Maybe
what
less
you call it, but
groomed
they
for
can't
politeness.
they can't whisper, they can't
Oh,
walk
that's true, they
softly,
cannot
they
whisper.
can't I mean, everything they do is loud or just
Mhm,
big. Anyway,
mhm.
but
They're allowed to take up space in the world. You know what, ladies? Just start belching, taking up a lot of
exactly.
room, and just smack your food.
Look, if I've got air in me, it's gonna come out either direction. So, and I'm not gonna apologize for it. All right, but you know what? We're not talking about men on the show today. We're talking about women. Specifically, we're talking about hormones, okay? The hormones that make women who they are. What are hormones? We hear the word all the time, but we may not know what they are. How do they change at our age? And what in the world can we do about it? Are you cranky? Talking about hormones? Yeah, so we have that experience as well. We're going to talk about that. So if you've ever experienced a hormonal hurricane, today's show is for you.
And you'll meet Kim Schaper, a holistic wellness coach and a certified personal trainer. Now, Kim's passion lies in helping women like you reclaim your inborn confidence, health, and well being. She is all things therapist, nutrition advisor, hormonal expert, and exercise guru. And because of her unique expertise in hormones, we're going to dive deep into that conversation and learn more about them, how they're affecting our personalities, our mental health, and our overall well being. But first, we got to ask you, have you subscribed to the Friendzy podcast yet? If not, please just punch that button to subscribe. It really means a lot for us. And leave us a review. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts. I have a friend who works for Pandora.
Yep.
She says, remind people you can listen on Pandora, Spotify, wherever you're listening to podcasts.
If you're taking a road,
subscribe.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know that we're now into the travel season again. Well, I guess it's never really stopped, but we're on Stitcher too. So if you're taking a road trip, you got Stitcher in your car. We're on Stitcher. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
Everywhere. You can't escape us.
That's right. Exactly. I will not be ignored. Talking about hormones. All right. So if you enjoyed this episode of The Friendzy, please share it with a friend. We would love for more women like you to find out about our show. So, Jen, we are going to dive into the She's So Hormonal conversation with Kim Schaper here in just a minute. But first, let us thank our sponsors. Kick it! Pajamas. Kick it. You get a 10% discount if you use the code Friendzy, because it's a frenzy in your pajamas.
And then we got
you Lifeline.
I like the vibrato today.
Thank you.
You're really bringing
it. You know why? Because my veins are clean, and I can do vibrato when my veins are clean.
That's it.
And if you go to
100%.
if you go to lifelinescreening.com and use the code FRIENDS without the Y, they'll know that we sent you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Check out lifelinescreening.com. Follow Melissa's lead on that and make sure your veins are all checked and good to go.
We are thrilled to introduce you to today's guest, a woman who is passionate about serving other women and an expert in female hormones. Finally, somebody's going to explain this to us. So, ladies, please welcome our new, most positive, healthiest guru and friend, Kim Schaper.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I am so excited to introduce you to our audience and let them get to know you. You are a holistic wellness coach and certified personal trainer, but you also are just an expert in women's health and really helping women feel their absolute best. So I'm just so excited to dive into this conversation today.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to help your listeners and give them any good information I can provide.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what's your story? How did you get here?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Thanks for asking. I'll give you the short version. So I'm 42 now. I was always an athlete in high school and part of college. And I ended up coming home my freshman year in college, gained like the traditional freshman 15. And I decided to work with a trainer. And so my mom and I started working with this coach. And hindsight looking back now, I'm very well aware of this is one of the reasons why I got in the field to begin with, because he was very body shaming. So I had actually never dieted in my life. And so it was my first diet working with this coach, and I was maybe 18. So my body responded really well. And then what I found is I started binging a lot on the weekends and having a lot of issues around food obsession, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I kind of put two and two together that, oh, wow, okay, well, if you're not eating, it's going to affect your metabolism, and then you're going to feel like crap, and then you're going to be binging on food. And so it created this whole cycle for me. And I ended up going back to college, and I literally took his 5 food suggestion and put it in my back pocket like it was the Bible. So I had really starved myself and got down to about 75 pounds. My parents pulled me out of school. I was in and out of treatment 7 times for bulimia, anorexia, just anxiety, depression, all of that stuff. So after I got well, even though I got the food under control in my early 30s and I felt great, I started dealing with lots of things like major fatigue. Even though the food was fine, it was lots of weight gain, major bloating, digestive issues, just felt really cloudy, brain fog. I was sweating a bunch. And so I went to just an endocrinologist because you think, oh, maybe I have a thyroid problem. So I went there and they said, oh, everything's fine. Everything came back normal. And I remember sitting in my car. I went to 3 different doctors and I just started bawling because I'm like, something is not right. I don't feel right. And I feel like these doctors are not taking me seriously. They're running these labs and saying that everything's fine. And I know something's not right. And I think
Mhm.
as females, we intuitively know when something doesn't feel right. And so, unfortunately, what I found is I was banging heads with the doctors because quite candidly, Western medicine is amazing. You know, if you need to get a CAT scan or an MRI or you're having heart issues, for sure. But when it comes to digestive issues, when it comes to weight gain, when it comes to fatigue, when it comes to hormonal issues, many of the doctors say one of two things. They say, okay, go on an antidepressant or go on a birth control pill. And so it's usually one
Mhm.
or the other. And it's some sort of script, some sort of medication just to fill the gaps or put the band-aid on a deeper rooted issue. And so I took it upon myself to become really educated, read a ton of books, learned a lot from different types of doctors, Eastern, Western, you name it, learned a ton about herbs and proper healing for your body. And listen, I'm not bashing Western medicine at all. We absolutely need it. I think it's a bit of both. But I think we put so much trust into our medical system when at the end of the day, we really have to be the CEO of our own health. We do, because we can spend 15 minutes with the doctor, but inevitably we know when something doesn't feel right. And if we're not getting the answers we need, we go elsewhere. And so my whole mission in all this was, okay, how can I create something for women where it's essentially a one-stop shop where they get nutrition, they get proper exercise protocols, they get to work with a functional medicine doctor who literally spends an hour on the phone with them reviewing all the appropriate labs. And rather than zooting all around, going to all these different doctors, getting piecemeal, feeling so confused.
And it
So
could take
that's
you a year, right? That could
oh,
take forever to get all those
easy.
appointments done.
Absolutely. And then the doctors aren't connecting. And let's be honest, you go to an endocrinologist, they specialize in thyroid. So they'll say it's a thyroid. You go to, I don't know, a hematologist, they'll say, okay, it's blood related. So I mean, there's so many different factors in
Right.
that. So it's literally looking at the entire picture. So
That's an incredible journey that you went through, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, but it sounds like you've really turned it into your passion.
I really have. People
Mhm.
think, oh gosh, do you regret going through that? And absolutely not. I would not be where I am today. And I wholeheartedly believe it's been my mission and my purpose to be here to really serve other women and help them. So, yeah.
Well, I'm so excited you're here because I've got a million questions about hormones. And
I
this
love it.
is where you are the true expert who can help us demystify this because I don't know why it's this way, but it seems to me that hormones seem like a mystery. Like, what
Yes.
exactly are they? And
Hmm.
where do they live in our bodies? I mean, can we
Hmm.
start at the basics? Because we all use that term. Oh, I'm so hormonal. But what is,
Right.
what
Yeah.
actually are hormones?
That's such a great question, and I love that you asked me that because so many times we don't even touch on that. And you're right, so many women say, "Oh, I just need my hormones balanced. I'm dealing with night sweats and hot flashes." And so our hormones play a big piece with our endocrine system. So it affects our metabolism, our appetite, our mood, our thyroid, all of that stuff. It also is in our adrenal glands, which sits at the top of our kidneys. Then we also have it in our pancreas for insulin issues. So it's in our brain with our hypothalamus. So our hormones are a bunch. It's about thinking about hormones as a beautiful symphony. And so when one gets out of whack, it's going to throw off a plethora of others. So they're all in our cells. Our hormones are within our cells. They're constant messengers. They're in our brain. I have a question for you. Where
Mhm.
do you think our metabolism is?
Our metabolism, like
Hmm.
how we process our nutrients. I would think it's in your
Hmm.
gut somewhere.
Actually, it's in our brain, believe it or not.
Wow.
So, yeah, many people don't know that our metabolism's in our brain. And so it's fascinating. It really is. But then you go back to the gut brain axis, right? So, that's a huge piece of hormonal stuff, too. I have tons of women who are in that fight or flight, that high stress, right? So, we're
Mhm.
going 100 miles an hour, we're doing all the things. And stress in of itself absolutely wreaks havoc on our hormones because it interferes with our brain, with just our obsessive anxiety, racing thoughts, and then it also affects our digestive system. And so when they're trying to sync one another, it's a mess. And our hormones, it's I like to view it as 50% gut, 50% hormones, because your
Mm.
thyroid, your brain chemicals, like what makes you happy, and the dopamine and serotonin, those all reside in your gut. So research has shown time and time again, when you are someone struggling with some sort of mental illness or depression, a lot of them have a very disrupted microbiome, which is in our gut.
Oh, wow. That is fascinating.
Hmm.
So let's talk about how hormones affect us, because the frenzy is for friendships over 40,
I
and
love it.
over over 40, a lot of that starts to change in our lives.
Yes.
And especially as we approach either perimenopause or menopause,
Hmm.
there are a lot of
Hmm.
changes going on for women, but it seems to be hush hush or shameful, or for some reason we don't talk about it with friends.
Yes.
But that's what we are doing this podcast for, is to
I
open up
love it.
those conversations. So, can you talk about how hormones change in middle age?
Yes, that's such a great question. And I love it that you are talking about these things, because you're right. It is hush hush. And this is when a lot of women are looking to liposuction, or getting these diet pills or whatever it may be, because they're like, oh my gosh, my body's different and it's not responding the way it used to. So women might have been endurance junkies in the past, which is fine. So they're doing, Ironman athletes, long runs, and it worked for a while until it didn't. And so what I've noticed across the board, a lot of women going into perimenopause, which is one thing I love working with women. Again, some women can go into menopause in late 30s, which is crazy. It's
Mhm.
pretty rare, but women who are going through perimenopause, menopause, I'll start with the symptoms. They start noticing that they're very moody. So they notice that their depression is more heightened. They notice that they're having more anxiety, more racing thoughts. They just feel more depressed. I can tell that there's a bit more of a lull. They don't feel their chippy self. They're also dealing with increased weight. So especially in their midsection, behind their bra line, and their hips, butt, and thighs starts to become problematic for them. So a lot of women really start to notice something's off when the weight is an issue. They start noticing they're more tired. They're relying more on coffee throughout the day. That their sex drive is kind of in the tank. They're not able to get as lubricated. They are having night sweats. They wake up. They wake up between 1 and 3 a.m. and they're just wide awake. They're like, "Why am I awake right now?" And they're dealing with hot flashes. They're just sweating, and they're just very snappy. They notice that they're just not feeling themselves. So I notice those are very, very common things. So
Mhm.
usually one of the reasons why this happens is because we have a major dip in our hormones. So we have estrogen. So our sex hormones are estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So testosterone is the hormone that you hear a lot about, that men have, that get you strong and bulky, but women need it too. And so we need just the right amount. We need the right amount for a healthy sex drive, for motivation, for stamina, for lean muscle mass. And then we also have our estrogen and our progesterone. And those are both very important too. I like to view the progesterone as kind of the queen hormone. That's the one that keeps us calm and grounded and stable. And one thing that comes up a ton, going back to the stress, when women are really stressed, their progesterone plummets. So if you
Wow.
think about a woman who has been trying to get pregnant. Okay. So she's super stressed out. She's like, oh my gosh, I cannot get pregnant, fall in the ovulation thing, doing all the things, super anxious. And then maybe she goes and gets acupuncture, or maybe she finally decides, you know what, I'm not gonna even worry about getting pregnant anymore. And then they get pregnant. Doesn't happen all the time, but it does.
Mhm.
And that's usually because their pregnancy hormone, progesterone, starts to increase again. But progesterone, what often happens, have you heard of the term estrogen dominance?
I have not.
Okay, so estrogen dominance. So the progesterone estrogen ratio is a bit of a balance, and those go hand in hand, essentially. So what happens is women who are noticing, especially in perimenopause, that they're dealing with more weight gain in their hips, butt, and thighs, maybe excessive cellulite, or their menstrual cycles are starting to become irregular, which is very common. Many of them are dealing with estrogen dominance because their progesterone has taken such a drop that their estrogen levels are dominating kind of the conversation. So then that's when you start noticing, yes, more irregularity with periods, maybe heavier periods, more moodiness, weight gain, and so forth. But to answer your question very simply, all three of those sex hormones drop significantly into our mid 40s and 50s, and even earlier too. So it is going to impact everything from our metabolism, our weight, our appetite, our mood, our strength, all of those things.
So it sounds like that change of hormones is going to be inevitable, that we're all women are going to go through it at some point, whether that's late 30s or early 50s, we're all going to go through this change of hormones. But it sounds like it's so important to have that balance. So what do you do to strike the right balance while your body's changing?
Such a great question. So I would say by far, there's a couple different things. So number one would be nutrition. I think that is paramount. That is, I know you've heard it before, so probably your listeners, but eating really good, rich foods that are high in omega-3 fatty acids. So omega-3s, our body does not make it on its own. So we need it from sources like walnuts, salmon, fatty fish, even canned sardines. Avocado works well. So those are really important. Then you also want to make sure you're getting some sort of healthy carbohydrate. Women get so caught up in keto or low carbohydrate, but the problem is when we go really low carb, it affects our thyroid, which is not a good thing. So you want to make sure you're getting the right type of carbs. So high fiber beans, legumes, whole grains. If you need to do gluten-free, you can do gluten-free. Also, protein is a big one. So making sure you're getting protein at every meal. To me, that's kind of a non-negotiable because it helps stabilize our blood sugar. And as we get into our 40s and stuff, because our hormones are in flux, we're going to be more prone to blood sugar dysregulation, which means it's going to affect our insulin levels, which can cause weight gain. So you want to make sure you have the proper blood sugar balance. So eating protein and fiber at every meal and a healthy fat. So that would be a couple eggs, maybe a little avocado and some fruit. So making sure you're including those at each meal. I also think supplements are important. I do think supplementation, though, it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So you have to be really careful about what you take and if you really need it and the quality of it. So that would be my 2 cents on that. And then exercise is a big one too. You want to find the right amount, not too much, but not too little. And then stress management by far is huge, and sleep. So a
Yes.
bit of all those things.
Well, and it's true, like you said about our hormones working all throughout different systems of our body. And if one is thrown off, it throws off the others. It seems like lifestyle, if one is thrown off, it can affect all the others. Because I've noticed in my life, if I don't get a good night's sleep, then I crave worse foods the next day.
Absolutely. It's absolutely going to impact you. Yes.
So it's like if I go to bed early and I eat well and I get a good night's sleep, the next day it seems easier to exercise and eat right and everything else. But if one of those things gets thrown off, they seem to all get thrown off.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
It's like it's a weird domino effect.
It really is. And then then you have your hunger hormones, which are ghrelin and leptin, and those get thrown off if you're not sleeping properly. So research has shown you're more prone to intake between 300 to 500 additional calories if you're sleep deprived. So, and even for men too, that their testosterone dips if they're sleep deprived. So sleep is huge, but yes, you're right. It'll definitely affect how we eat, how much we want to eat, what we reach for. We want the carbs and the sugar. Our brains want that instant fix, and usually that's some sort of sugar.
And it's like when we were younger, you could sort of indulge in all that and then get past it very quickly, or or shake it off a little, if you had like a sugar binge or a night out of partying or whatever, you could kind of slough it off and bounce back a little bit faster.
I feel like
it's
so sad.
I know. But it's okay. We just have to be aware that at this age of life, we have to really prioritize taking care of ourselves more than we did in the past, and make sure that 100%. Balance is all there.
And it's okay.
Piece. We just have to change our mentality around it, that it's not a burden, but that it's a pleasure to do that because we're worth it.
We
right?
are so worth it. And Jen, if I can say, if anyone takes anything away from this podcast, is just the importance of taking care of yourself. So many times we put everybody else before us, and then we end up super sick, having health issues, dealing with autoimmune issues, whatever, because we're so fixated on helping everyone else. But what I found time and time again is when we're taking care of ourselves, we can show up so much more effectively for others. And until we feel bad, we don't realize how good we're supposed to feel. So when women are starting to feel better and doing all these things, they notice, whoa, I didn't realize I was actually supposed to feel this good. So it does make a massive difference.
That's incredible. Okay, so
Mhm.
what does being hormonal really mean? Like when we say like, "Oh,
Oh gosh.
she's so hormonal today," or "I'm so hormonal today." What is it? What are we even saying?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I think partly I will say sometimes it can be a scapegoat. Sometimes people say
Mhm.
it just to say it because that's how they feel like they are. But maybe we're just in a bad mood. We just get crabby. I mean, it's inevitable. So I, I do think, again, stress plays such a big part. So again, sleep deprivation, you're not eating enough. You haven't been taking care of yourself or exercising or overstretching your limit. One thing, so here's a great analogy. So if you take a rubber band, for instance, let's say you take this rubber band, and you know how you can gently like tug at it, and it goes back to normal, right? But what often happens is when we're pulling, it's going to snap. And so before we are so stretched so thin, this is when a lot of women are like, I can't do it anymore, I am so hormonal. And that's because we're taking on way too much on our plate. So we're going to have symptoms of weight gain, inflammation, so feeling like we're retaining a lot of water, moodiness. We're going to feel super crabby. We're going to feel wired but tired. We're gonna feel really revved up, but we're not going to be able to fall asleep. We're going to feel, yes, having those night sweats, having some brain fog. Like, wait, what's your name again? Just more forgetful. But I say when women say, "Oh, I'm so hormonal," it usually means that they're really moody. And that can
Mhm.
be a factor of imbalanced hormones.
And if you are hormonally imbalanced, what do you do to correct it? What would be the first step?
Yes. So hands down, there's a couple different things you can do to me are non-negotiable. So I like to kind of view it as like 5 pillars for your health. So again, before going into each one specifically, first and foremost, you have to look at your nutrition. Okay. So that's paramount. How are you eating? Are you eating well? Are you binging and eating lots of processed foods and sugars and all of that? Because when your blood sugar's all over the place, it'll totally throw off your hormones. So you have to make sure you're eating effectively. And one thing I see a lot with women in their 40s is they're under eating. So they think that by not eating and overtraining or over exercising or eating like a bird is going to make them feel better, when actuality it's doing them a complete disservice. So nutrition by far, really nutrient dense foods is a really big one. And if for some reason some women struggle with gut issues, they just get really bloated and gassy, I always recommend a digestive enzyme. So that helps a lot to help process the food better. After that, again, stress management. So finding ways to take care of yourself, whether that is sitting in your car and taking 2 minutes to breathe, just really focusing on breathing through your diaphragm, getting relaxed, taking down your nervous system into more of that parasympathetic response, which is just that rest and digest. Another one, this is random, but to hum for 20 seconds before a meal, because
Oh,
often
this
what
is so
happens,
good.
yes,
Okay. I've never
and
heard this
yes,
before.
and to sing in the shower, okay? Because what I like to do is pair it. So you have something called your vagus nerve. And so it's your vagal tone, and I'm not going to get into all that now, but if your vagal tone is not optimized, it'll absolutely impact your nervous system, which will go into your fight or flight. So you're always on, revved up, super, aware. And that's when women again say they feel really hormonal. So by activating your vagal tone, it puts you into that calm response. So I like to do it in pairs. So again, humming for 20 or 30 seconds before a meal, that'll help with your digestion and relax your system. And
So
then
humming
singing in the
anything?
shower.
Humming
You can
anything.
hum whatever you want. You
Humming
can hum
anything.
happy birthday,
Okay.
whatever you want, hum
I love
away.
it. I
Or
love
you
it.
could just, yeah.
And you said singing in the shower? I didn't
Yes,
mean to cut
singing
you
in the
off there.
shower. Yes,
Okay.
because that activates your vagal tone too, and that helps put your body in a calmer state. So to me, hands down, like regulating your system is by far the most important, along with the nutrition. And then I'm also a huge component of lab work. Not from just your OBGYN, not just from your endocrinologist, because unfortunately, they do not run all the markers. It's super frustrating, but I can't tell you, if any of your friends come back and they say, well, my labs are normal. That's what I hear all the time. And the reason why your labs are normal is because they don't run everything.
Hmm.
And then the range is so broad, and it's you don't like, they don't even look at the symptoms really. So I'm huge on lab work from some sort of functional medicine doctor who specializes in hormones. And one thing that works really well for a lot of my clients, along with these other things, is bioidentical hormones. So not synthetic, not something you get from birth control, but more bioidentical. So again, like I had mentioned in the beginning, with estrogen, testosterone, progesterone taking such a plummet in our 40s, aside from the lifestyle changes and so forth, there's other ways we can raise it. And bioidenticals is a great one for that. And that literally means you just have more hormones in your system that work for your body that are not the synthetic version.
And when you work with women one on one with some of these hormone replacement therapies, like, do you see the difference and the impact right away?
Mhm. It takes, so in all honesty, it's going to take a little bit of time. I see some shifts. Some women start to see a shift within a couple weeks. Some women, it takes a good 6 months. And remembering too that our hormones didn't get to where they are based off a month or two. It's usually a slow, gradual burn. And usually their main signal that something is off is because of weight issues, or they're super moody and crying a bunch. They just feel very unregulated. But yes, it can be anywhere. And ideally, Jen, like if you look at the big picture, it's really a solid year where women really, really feel their best. But they can start feeling better quicker. And unfortunately, there's not a magic pill to this. It's just kind of looking at the big picture and focusing on some of the main things that really help women. But a lot of them, I'll tell you, a lot of them, they'll do cream testosterone. I do it as well. And I mean, their sex drive is awesome. They feel so much better. They have more energy. The progesterone, same thing. They take caps at night and they sleep so much better. Their anxiety is significantly improved. And that happens pretty quickly.
And I think if you're listening to Kim right now and you're like, yes, that sounds like me, that sounds like me, and you actually take that time to take care of yourself, think about how much better you'd be taking care of all the other people in your life.
Yes.
Because if you have the energy and you're sleeping well and your mood is in a good place, you can
Hmm.
care for your children or, the generation above us, because we're that sandwich generation, right? We're taking care of kids still, and we're taking care
Hmm.
of aging parents.
It's so true.
And
So
it's
true.
like
Yes.
you've got to somehow carve out that space for yourself and put yourself first, because otherwise you
Hmm.
can't take care of all these other people in your life. And if you
Yeah.
are, so spread so thin, you're
Hmm.
not going to be doing it at your best, at your peak
Exactly.
performance.
Exactly. I'll give you a quick example. So, for some reason, a lot of my clients are lawyers. They're very overachieving type women. So, this one
Mhm.
lady, she came to me. She was so fried out. She was training 6 days a week, way too much, under eating, just balls to the wall, hardcore, over committed with work. And so she started with me, and we're about 6 months in, and she's completely transformed her life. She learns to say no. She set very solid boundaries with the men in her office, and she asked for a raise. She got it. She now taps into her creativity. So she paints and she takes her dogs for walks, and she loves journaling and tea. Whereas before it was like hardcore all the time. And now she's like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better, Kim. I feel so much happier. And I can take care of other people while also setting boundaries for me because I'm deserving of it. And it's so true. We really are.
That's got to make you feel so good when you have a
Yeah, it
client
really
like that.
does. Yeah. Yes, for
And when
sure.
when someone comes to work with you, what
Mhm.
does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So they usually reach out to me, email or Instagram, and they've noticed my stories and my posts. And like, gosh, they resonate so much. And so I really, really love helping women over 40. Some women in 35 plus, but over 40. And typically, what it looks like is I always like to get on the phone with them and just get a clear understanding of what they're looking for, and if in fact we can help them. And then from there, if they feel like they're ready and it's something that we can do and we have the space for it, I take them on as a client. We literally get them started with the doctor's office the following day. So what is great is this can be done anywhere in the country. Only in the US, we can't do it in Canada or Australia or stuff, but we will literally send you the lab requisition. You go get your labs drawn, we get the results back. You have an hour consultation with the functional medicine team. They review everything. We give them an exact treatment plan, from supplementation, from bioidenticals if needed. We look at their mineral nutrients, their hormone levels to see where they're at. It's very customized to them. And then what I also do too is after that, I get on the phone with them and really help them understand, because it feels like a lot of information sometimes, especially if they've worked with just their general doctor. And then I help lay out a nutrition plan and an exercise plan for them based off where their hormones are at. And then if it's something that they want to be more committed in, then we offer 6 and 3 month programs if they need continued support. And I'm there with them, coaching them along the way, doing phone calls. And so it's, again, it's usually one of those two, where it's just that initial and they just are like, okay, I'm good after that. Or they like the more longer term commitment, because yeah, hormones take time.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I
Mhm.
can just tell you love what you do.
I love it so much. I am so grateful for what I can do. I love it so much. It makes me so happy.
And yeah,
Mhm.
I can just tell you're just so committed to people and helping them feel better, because
Yes.
it's what's worked for you and
Mhm,
your
mhm.
personal journey.
Yes, for
It's
sure.
like for sure your pain is your purpose, just incredible.
I
Well,
wholeheartedly believe that, and then I also realized too, sorry, I realized too that yes, I can go through the experience, and I don't have a PhD or I don't have a master's, but I surround myself with people who are really smart, and my team is really smart. So we all have our own expertise, and I think that's what it's about too, is just having a all-encompassing team that can look at the individual as a whole.
Well, I even think just talking to you opens up the possibility of someone reaching out for help. Like if you're
Mhm.
going through some of these things that Kim has been talking about, whether that's waking up in the middle of the night. I mean, you were going down a checklist. I'm like, I think I'm for sure in perimenopause, because it was like, I'm
I
definitely
was
waking up
wondering
in the middle
that.
of the night. I'm like hot in the middle of the night. My husband's like, do you want
Oh,
to snuggle?
yes.
I'm like, get away from me. You're too hot.
Right, right, right.
Um, but if you're experiencing these things, A, you're not alone. And B, it's okay to
Mhm.
reach out for help. We don't have to figure
Yes.
out all of this stuff by ourselves. And we're not
Mhm.
supposed to know it all, right?
No.
We're not born knowing all this stuff, especially when past generations of women like whispered the word menopause. They're like,
Yes.
menopause, like it was
Yes,
a
yes.
bad, dirty word. And
Correct. Yes.
it's like we have to be the generation that says, no, it's not a bad word. It happens to
Mhm.
half the population on the planet.
Yes,
Let's
absolutely.
go ahead and embrace it, right?
Yes, and normalize it. Yes.
And
And
let's
help
and
each
let's
other.
reach
Yes.
out. Yeah,
Mhm.
start these
Mhm.
conversations, reach out for help. I love what you do.
Thank
Um
you. And
and
I'll
I
just say one.
appreciate you
Oh,
sharing
sorry.
all of this information, because I mean,
Sure.
you're just so generous with it.
Oh my gosh, I love to, and it's my pleasure. And one thing I'll just say too is, one thing I don't recommend is, so many times we go off our symptoms, right? And then we think, all right, we go down this rabbit hole of Google, and then we try and self-diagnose, and then we're like, okay, we're dying because I have an ear infection. And so, you got to get off the Google train. It'll drive you absolutely crazy. And I see it a lot where women just buy all these random supplements because they're promoted by a specific doctor or whatever that's popular on the internet. But please do not do that, because that'll screw you up even more.
And everybody's such a unique individual. What works
Correct.
for your neighbor, girlfriend next door is going to be
Yep.
different than works for the mom you carpool with, and works different from everybody. So
Absolutely.
I like that individualized care that you
That's what it's
give.
all about. That's what it's all about. Yep.
All right, Kim, we ask every one of our guests the Frenzy 5. This is just rapid fire questions.
Hmm.
First answer that comes to your mind. Okay.
Okay, let's do
Number
it.
one, where is your cozy, happy place?
The beach with my feet underneath the sand, having a margarita and relaxing in the sun.
Yes, girl, I am
Yeah.
there with you on that one.
Let's
Number
go.
two, what's your favorite framed thing in your home?
Gosh, it's a really good question. I would say, shoot, the picture of my family. Yes, I've
Good.
got a great picture of my family and I love it. Yes, that would be it.
Awesome. Number three,
Mhm.
what's your most memorable birthday?
Oh gosh, I would say by far was when, unfortunately, is when I was 19, and it wasn't the happiest birthday. It was when I was really sick and my parents made me this beautiful cake and I just cried and like put this fake smile on because I was petrified of eating it. So, unfortunately, that's the most memorable, but I
Mm.
would say a lot of my birthdays have been filled with so much fun, so much laughter, so much love. So, yes.
Number 4, what's a daily routine or ritual you stick to?
Absolutely. So I have 3 non-negotiables, and I tell this across the board to my audience, my clients. Pick 3 non-negotiables every day so you can show up for yourself and be committed and have that resilience. So mine is some sort of salad every day, like a big veggie or a meal that has a ton of veggies in it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is some sort of quiet time, whether it's meditation or prayer for 5 minutes. Number 3 is moving for 30 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be where I'm religiously exercising, but even if I'm just outside walking for 30 minutes, those are my 3. I make sure it happens every day.
Love those. We're
Mhm.
gonna steal those from you. That's so good.
Go for it.
And number 5, what fashion trend did you jump on?
Oh gosh, when I would tight roll my jeans. I don't know if you
Yes,
did that, but that's when I was like in 8th grade and it was the Guess jeans and I would tight roll them and I thought I was so cool.
you were.
That.
You were totally so cool.
Thank
That's
you. I think
great.
I was too. You
Nobody
too.
has said tight rolling jeans yet. I love that so much. That's
Good.
great.
Good. I love it.
All right, y'all go find out more information about Kim or maybe reach out to her to help you get started on getting your hormones in balance and just feeling your best. KimShaper.com, Kim.Shaper on Instagram, and that's
You got it.
SCHAPER. And Kim, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience, like where to find you or follow you or what shows you're part of?
Such a great question. I would say, like, I'm on Instagram a lot. I respond to
Cool.
everybody on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook too. Same thing, Kim Shaper. I'm here to help. So whatever you need, there's no question that's dumb. You're not crazy. You're not, oh my gosh, you probably think I'm weird for asking this. Nothing is off the table. I talk about poops all day with my clients. We talk about bleeding, all that stuff. So you are fine. So I would say Instagram. You can message me at info@kimshaper.com. Those would be my 2 where I can definitely get in touch with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
You
this
bet.
a
Thank you for having
wonderful,
me.
enlightening conversation and just being so generous with your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jen.
I just love Kim Shaper. I learned so much from that interview.
I
I
feel
mean,
like I feel like I was in college and I needed to take hurried notes. First of all, great job on the
yes.
interview, because I wasn't able to be a part of that interview, and you did fantastic. But I know Kim was trying to get so much out of there, but it's like the beauty of a podcast is you can listen to it over and over again. We're on YouTube, you can watch it because
Yes.
I'm going to have to listen to that more than once to get the
Exactly.
concept.
Yeah, if you were driving while listening to that interview or you were walking or, or running or
Hmm.
something, it may be worth a rewind so you can sit down and jot down some notes. It was so chock full of information. And it's amazing that as women of our age, we don't know this stuff. How do we not
Right.
know this stuff already? How is this not in health class when we're in 6th grade?
Yep.
But it's so important to talk about it. I loved her 3 non-negotiables
Hmm.
and that promise that she makes to herself every day. I thought, wow, I don't do that. And I really need to come up with what are my 3 non-negotiables. So I just think it's so great to acknowledge that at our age, we have to take care of ourselves better than we have in past decades.
Hmm.
In your teens, you don't have to think about it. In your 20s, you don't really have to think about it. In your 30s, you might be thinking about it. But now in your 40s and 50s and beyond, you've got to make yourself and your health a priority. It can no longer come at the bottom of the list. And so that was just really insightful for me that she has those 3 non-negotiables for her day. And that's my homework is I'm going to come up with my 3 non-negotiables. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, agreed with you, that it's fascinating that we don't know this. I liked what you said in there about it's okay. So, when there was a kind of a joke about our age and the weight gain and all that stuff, and you're like, but it's okay. We just have to be aware of it. And I think that is kind of the whole point of the frenzy is all this
Yeah.
is okay. It's okay to be older. It's just we have to be educated on what that means and have a positive spin on it. Right. So we're
Right.
basically going through what we went through as teenagers, but reverse. right? So we are not getting this influx of hormones as we did then. We're getting the deflux of hormones, if that's a word. I don't know if that's a word. But even, I've heard estrogen and progesterone and all those things. I got to say that my experience is unique, though, when it comes to how my hormones have affected me as I'm older, because I went through IVF. And that's something else that I honestly do not think people talk about enough. And what I mean is, and I'm no medical expert, but in my observation, I went through 2 rounds of IVF for Mr. Carter, and Katie Jo went through 2 rounds of IVF. I mean, we went through a lot to have our son. We spent 6 years trying to get our son.
And that's injecting hormones into your system, right?
That
So
is
you can make
correct.
the eggs plump and juicy and get them out.
Exactly.
Okay.
And those are shots in your stomach that you take on a daily basis.
Hmm.
And you're exactly right. It's hormones. And they're trying to trick your body into thinking that it's time to be pregnant, right? It's time to be fertile. And again, now with Katie and I, we weren't infertile. We were just lesbians who needed the help. And so they were going to have to distract. Neither one of us were going to carry. So they had to extract that from us. So what they do is they inject you with these hormones, and that way you produce a lot of eggs. And that way they can take them out, and you have more chance of success the more eggs you take out. It's not natural for you to have a litter, right? It's not natural for the human body to have more than one egg be expelled, but we were having several expelled at once. I noticed my body being different after that. I noticed weight gain.
Interesting.
Weight gain was hard for me after that. I gained more weight than I've ever had after that, and I still haven't gotten it all off. I noticed I've got boobs. I never had boobs before. But the main thing that Katie and I both went through, but at separate times, was I started having issues, and Jenn remembers this. There was one time that Katie and I went to visit Jenn and Grant at a cabin, and Lauren was a baby, and I confessed to them I am unable to pee, that I have the urge to pee, but when I go to the bathroom, I can't pee. And it was scary. It scared me. I didn't know what it was. And Jenn and Grant were the only people that I had confessed this to, because we were at the cabin and I was having to go to the bath. Like, oh, is this going to be the one?
Right.
And there were
Yeah, I
times
remember that.
where my bladder was so full that it almost contracted, like forcing it. So it was an odd spasmic kind of thing. And I was like really concerned, went to doctor after doctor. Nobody could find the reason. And then finally somebody did after doing a scan, and it was fibroids. I had severe fibroids. I had 6 massive fibroids in my uterus. And so they had to take my uterus out. So I had a partial hysterectomy, still had my ovaries, but so I could still have cycles, but I wasn't bleeding anymore because they took the uterus out. That was a direct result of the IVF treatments.
Wow.
So,
And it's a total hormone hurricane going on inside your body.
Absolutely. And then after that, shortly, I'd say maybe a year or 2. What happened, right? But one of the things that happened also, the reason I couldn't pee is because one of the fibroids was pressing on my urethra. But Katie didn't have that. But one of the things we had in common was right before I had the fibroid, when I had the fibroid issue, I had massive bleeding. And Katie started having massive bleeding. And after watching me go through what I went through, she was like, I wonder if I've got the same thing. Went, and sure enough, she had severe fibroids to where she had to have her uterus taken out.
Wow.
So Katie and I both had to have a partial hysterectomy within, right after we went through those IVF rounds. So anyway, and then when we mentioned it to doctors, they were like, well, it's just a coincidence. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence. They don't want to take responsibility for the fact that that is a direct result potentially of going through IVF treatment. So we still don't understand hormones to the point of, I'm not even sure if clinics know that I don't know. I'm not a medical professional. I just know that it has wreaked havoc on me since then, mainly with the weight. And then now I'm perimenopause, whatever it is. I'm on the off ramp to menopause. And that's when the hair loss came, the hot flashes, the back acne. Like I had, the hot flashes is all we know. And we've talked about this on the show before, but nobody talks about hair loss. I know that, Kim didn't mention that in the list, but I know that she's seen, hair loss, back acne, like I said, just severe, just to where I was embarrassed to you put a swimsuit on.
I want to ask about the acne thing too, because I feel like that's one of the symptoms I'm experiencing now is I'm feeling like I'm getting cystic acne.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like the kind that's like underneath the skin and it hurts really
and it hurts
bad.
and it doesn't pop. Like, let's
Never Yeah.
You're not satisfied in the yes,
No, there's
that's what
no
the back
way
at me
out
was.
other than, like, suffering through it, and I
Yes.
was wondering that I mean, that has to be hormones, right?
That is well, I did not know I thought when it was happening because it was so weird, it wasn't normal pimples.
Right.
I thought it was I changed my detergent, so I went through I changed shampoos, I did not put hormones with any of my symptoms until I got the hot flashes, and so I'm glad that Kim is talking I know that was a long story, but the point is that even as an intelligent woman as I think I am, when it comes to hormones, I'm completely ignorant because I didn't until somebody mentioned until the hot flashes actually, till the hot flash happened, I didn't think to go to the gynecologist when I was having these symptoms. I was just thinking it was the pandemic, it was stress, it was my mother's death, it was sheets, or it was detergent, or it was shirts I'm wearing, or and it was
Right.
hormones.
And here's the thing, you went immediately to your OBGYN, which is
Mhm.
great, right, to ask for help, but there's also other things that can help you, like with what Kim
Mhm.
does, it's,
Exactly.
it's exploring all these other ways, and I think it's interesting that you wanted to blow it off and blame a whole bunch of other things rather than being aware enough that it's your health, it's your age, it's
Right.
this stage of life, and make that a priority and say, "It's okay to ask for help." That's what I want our listeners to get from this
Absolutely.
episode is like, ask for help, whether you're comfortable going to your OBGYN first or you want to take a look at your nutrition and your lifestyle first.
Mhm.
It's okay to go ask someone for help.
Right.
We don't have to figure
Absolutely.
out all of this on our own.
And it shouldn't be a mystery. We've said this before. As you were talking, I have a feeling that you already in your mind know about the time that Lauren and Reese are going to need to have conversation from you about how their body's about to change.
Right.
And I remember being looking forward to it. I remember it being that's what, now you're a big girl because you get your
Mhm.
period. And I knew to expect pain. I knew to expect pimples. I knew to expect bleeding. And when it came, it was a badge of honor. It was celebrate, we celebrated in my house when I finally got my period. So I want us to help with that now. Like it should
Right.
be like you mentioned, like you're not bleeding anymore. You're not going to have cramps anymore. Like, the weight gain can be mitigated. Like all these things, if you're aware of it, like you just said, whether it's through, your OBGYN, whether it's through Western medicine, whether it's through Eastern medicine, whatever it is, there are ways to keep the things you dread from happening if you know it's coming, and it should be something that you look forward to. And I also think that when you dread something and have a negative feeling about it, it exaggerates it. So if we
True.
celebrated menopause, then
Yes.
if it got weight gain, oh, cool. You know what? I just gained 5 or 10 pounds. That's a sign. That's a sign. I'm almost over. I've got these pimples. Oh. That means that I'm almost done. It should be
Right.
celebrated.
Exactly. And here's the other thing to celebrate is we're of the age where we have the money to spend on ourselves.
That's right.
So I want you to spend money on yourself. Go spend money at the doctor or go spend money
Yeah.
for a personal trainer or a nutritionist or a lifestyle expert or, a holistic health coach like Kim who can help you. It's okay to put yourself first.
Yeah.
And instead of another thing for your kids or for your parents or for someone else in your life, you would not think twice about spending 50 bucks or 100 bucks or 200 bucks for someone else.
Right.
Go spend it on yourself.
That's a
Like
great
that's the
point.
other thing,
Yep.
we put ourselves on the priority list as far as like budgeting for things goes, or, and I'm guilty of this too. I'll set aside a budget for my hair color. Oh, heck yeah. I'm going to go drop
You
some
might.
cash on my hair.
Yes.
But am I gonna go drop the same amount of cash on my health so I can feel better every day? I haven't, but I
Right.
need to. I need to
Mhm.
just plan for that budget for it. We can skimp in other areas, go out to eat a couple of nights less so that you can put that priority in place in your budget. So, I want to make sure that women go, you're worth it. I am worth it to spend the money on this and to go explore it and to know this is the time of life. You're in it right
Yeah.
now.
Absolutely. Well, and it's funny you say that. Quick story. My son is a very picky eater, and we realized that he's not eating very much. Even the teacher's like, you know what? He's not eating very much of the school lunch. You may want to, prepare his lunch.
Start
So
packing
start
something
packing
in because he's
lunch.
like,
Yes.
"Meh, I don't want this."
Yeah. So that's fine. That's who he is. And so what did Mama do? Mama went out and got this really fancy bento box. What did Mama
Of
do?
course.
Mama got up early and she made sure that everything was cut just right and everything set in that box just right. Not, and like getting excited about all the compartments I get to fill with things that he might eat and hoping that he finishes it and like challenging myself. Okay, well, when he brings this home, is it going to be empty? Is it going to be what? How did I do? And I remember as I was preparing this fancy feast for my 6-year-old that I asked myself, have you ever done this for you? Have you
Right,
ever
and
gotten
those
excited to
bento
do that?
boxes are not cheap. I've looked them up on Amazon. Those things are expensive.
I got the one with where you freeze it and you can put it underneath the
Oh,
tray and
yeah.
it keeps everything.
I'm sure you
It's a
spent
nice
some serious
color.
cash on that. So what you need to do
Yeah.
is set aside that same amount of cash and spend it on yourself, getting healthy or feeling better, whatever that might
Right.
be.
Absolutely.
I don't think we do that for ourselves enough. So
Well, and
there,
I think
I'm off my soapbox.
No,
Spend money on yourself.
No, but but it also you beat yourself up when something happens. You talk about a hormonal hurricane. Okay, so I think it's hard, and I'm certainly not picking on Katie, but I'm going to use an example of observing her because I think it's hard to observe yourself doing it because you
Mhm.
dismiss yourself and then you beat yourself up for doing it. But Katie and I both are on the ramp to menopause. Lucky Mr. Carter. But yes, we are both going through this, and she's younger than me, but it just worked out to where we're both doing this, and so before she realized what was happening, because again, for her, it wasn't until the hot flashes that she realized something was going on.
Right.
And so I was dropping my son off because we're not together anymore. And I was dropping my son off at her house one morning. This was before the pandemic for school. And he got to the door and we were standing there in her kitchen. And I usually go when I, visit for a minute before I leave. I don't just drop him off on the street. You know what I mean? Like he needs
Yeah.
to see his parents together. And so we're talking and she I barked at him about something that was so insignificant to the point that he even was shocked. He got in trouble for something. He hadn't been in the door for 5 minutes. And, but it wasn't something to get in trouble for, but there was something that, that she was addressing but it went to level 15, out of 10.
Right.
So anyway, he went
Where
to the
you're
restroom.
both looking around like, where did that come from?
I was even in shock. So anyway, he went to the restroom because they were about to leave for school. And I said, "Are you okay?" So we, and I don't think she was aware that she had done
Mhm.
that. And then it was shortly thereafter she started having hot flashes and then she realized. So again, it's that I don't think sometimes you realize it's a hormonal hurricane. Now again, I've had plenty of those instances, but it's hard for me to know which is that. Was I tired? Was it a bad day? Did I not eat right? Did I, we all have it and we shouldn't hate ourselves for having those issues. We need to love our body for what it is. And our body is not the enemy. And society has made women feel like our bodies are something to be ashamed of,
Mhm.
internal and external. And that's, we just can't do that.
Yeah, and I do think it's a celebration. Heck, I am so ready to be done with having a cycle. Woo, that'll be like freeing. We should definitely be throwing some parties. And I know you and I have talked about throwing
White
some
pant party.
white pant menopause parties.
Yep.
So,
That's it.
you
Can wear
know,
white pants without worry from here on out.
absolutely. If you have ever experienced a hormonal hurricane, it's okay. You are not alone. We are right there with you. We're doing it too. And like I said in my chat with Kim, what I'm recognizing is the lack of sleep at night. There's that
Yeah.
little window where I will wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, what is going on? Why am I awake right now?
And you're wide awake. It's like
Wide
somewhere between
awake.
2 and 4. That happened to me this morning. It was 3:14 and I
And
was
you're
ready to
like,
get up and go to
no,
work.
no, I don't want to be awake right now. Please
Yeah.
let me roll over. And I've like tried to condition myself to do some like gratitude meditations. Like, okay, I'm just going to go over and over and on my mind, like things that I'm grateful for. And then sometimes that will help lull me back to sleep. But I love my sleep.
Yeah.
Don't take that away.
never-
Menopause and perimenopause. Give me my rest. I love sleep more than anything. I'm telling you. And I'm like, uh-oh. But I need to recognize that as a sign.
It's a sign to
Start making
celebrate. Your
it a
body's telling you
priority.
something's
Yep.
happening inside me, and you should be like, "Thank you, body. Thank you for telling me. I hear you. I'm going to go back to sleep now, but I wish you the best of luck in balancing these hormones."
I love it. All right, Melissa, we've got something new. Tell everyone.
Yes. Okay. We have a brand new segment. So excited about because guess what, guys? We got mail. We've actually gotten mail.
We got mail.
So we are going to start a new advice segment called Dear Melissa and Jenn. It's basically your audio advice column. So we encourage you to reach out to us. If you have a question, melissa@thefriendzy.com or jen@thefriendzy.com. I have not seen this email yet, so I am very excited.
Yes, this came into the Friendzy inbox, and this is from one of our friends who gets our emails. So if you sign up at thefriendzy.com, you'll get our emails. It's one a week. I promise you, we do not bug you and like pepper you with all kinds of junk. We just send you the episode. And then in that email was our emails. So that's where this one came from. Okay. Hey, Melissa and Jenn, I'm loving the podcast, especially the recent episode with the chef Virginia. I'm
Yay.
going through something and wanted your advice since you're both not too close to the situation.
Okay.
We have some dear friends getting divorced. They have been married over 20 years and it's coming as a shock. They are some of our closest friends, family vacations, kids are friends, etc. Here's the question. Is there any advice you have on navigating this mess so that my husband and I can stay friends with both of them? Or do you always end up picking a side? We don't know much about the split, except that she said he wanted to divorce more than she did. I'm upset, but wanting to remain neutral. I would love to hear your advice. Sincerely, Nora P. I'll go with Nora P.
Yeah, Nora, thank you so much for the email. You're our first emailer. Gosh, where do I begin? No, but
you and I have both been through big splits.
Yes, I've never been married because I couldn't get married at the time Katie and I were together because it wasn't legal yet. But yes, we had a split, and Jenn's been in that situation, and Jenn's had a split, and I've been in that situation. We've been on both sides of it.
Mhm.
I just think it's easier to remember who brought you to the party. That's my advice. I mean, there's so much we could talk about. I will say from the relationship standpoint that when you're going through a breakup, like Katie and I were together for 9 years, but I think the last 3 years were bad. So it wasn't a immediate breakup. It was a road that we took for granted in the beginning, and then once we realized something was wrong, it was too late. And I keep bringing up Katie. I mean, Katie's in a long-term relationship now. So I have not entered another, and that's not been purposeful. It's just happened. I think mainly because I focused on my son, and then the pandemic happened. But, yeah, I think that, I was just addressing what she said about it's a shock and I don't know what happened. Well, what happened was that they just don't work anymore. And
right. And sometimes couples, and I think you all did this too, keep it pretty well secret when things aren't going well. So on the outside, it seems like everything is fine. And it does come as a shock to your friends.
The last you put on even a better face because you don't want to deal with the public while you're dealing with the private. Yep. I didn't come out that Katie and I broke up until we were broken up for 6 months on the radio. Like I still talked about her on the radio like we were together. But yeah, I think that, so anyway, they've had problems for a long time and it's nobody's fault. I do think that, with Katie and I, she had to pull the trigger of the end, which allowed me to indulge in that and then just make her, the villain. But in all honesty, it was both of us. Both of us were unhappy and somebody has. So in that case, it sounds like the husband had to be the one because nobody wants to be the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody's got to be the bad guy when the relationship's ending. And so
now,
that's,
was there someone who was a friend of yours who navigated it well and someone who did not navigate your split well? Like examples of it, because I've definitely got examples from in my life.
Well, because I don't remember.
Because maybe your friends were more separate, where like picking sides was.
Well, everybody was. It was hard because
it
was
hard.
We weren't together. We were together 9 years, not 20 something. But even the friendships we had, I think for everybody, it's like, well, we liked you together, and I still get
your lives
comments.
are so blended and close.
Yes, I still get that. I still get people who say, I loved y'all together better than not. But but that's life.
Yep.
Yes, but I think I want to hear your examples. I'll finish out by just reiterating that I think the best thing you could do to limit the feeling of betrayal and awkwardness is to leave the party with who you went to the party with. Whoever you were friends with first is who you stay the closest with, and allow them, like Jenn in this case, came to the party with me and had a really hard time when Katie and I broke up. And I did not have a problem her staying friends with Katie. I'm older. I'm not the one, you can't be with friends with her. But I did need somebody to vent about Katie to, just as Katie had to have people to vent about me to. And so I think that's why you do that, is because you have to allow the person to hurt and purge and hate the person for a minute. You've got to get through that. There's a moment where they're going to hate them, and then they'll come back. Then all that'll
is a great healer.
Absolutely.
It really is. It
So,
really is. And I think from my perspective, so I was married young and with that person for 12 years total. Only married less than 5 years of that. But our lives were very intertwined. And some of our friends, it sounds like, or similar in Nora's situation. Now, I didn't have children then, so that's definitely different. But, close friends with a lot of other couples, lots of vacation travel where your lives feel very intertwined. And I would say the people who navigated our divorce best were the ones who stayed out of it. So stay out of it. Like, if you need to listen to the wife complain, listen, comfort, but don't add fuel to the fire.
Right. Yes. And Jenn did not do that. Yeah. So Jenn,
it's like there's already enough fire there. There's this house is burning down. You do not need to throw gasoline on it. And I think that if you can just be a listener and a helper and a coach and a comfort, that's the best place to be for both of them. And maybe you're closer with the husband, same type of thing. Comfort, friendship, maybe offer a distraction. Maybe be like, hey, let's go to a movie, or let's go do something else to take their mind off of it. But don't add fuel to the fire. Well, I heard that he said whatever. Yes. And did you see that she was posting with this new person on Facebook? And, because to me, the people who got involved in the split did nothing but ruin their friendships, not only with the person they were siding with, but also with the other person.
Right. Did Nora say if this couple had kids or not?
Yeah.
As you mentioned,
their kids are friends.
Oh, okay.
It says.
All right. So Nora, let me add to that, not to interrupt you, Jenn, but I want to just reiterate exactly what you said. Even if the person is doing that, even if the person's saying, did you see them on Facebook? Don't indulge in what they're doing, because they're just processing. They're purging and processing. And Katie and I, from the start, knew, because we had a child, that we had to get back into a space where we could be friends. And we were dedicated to doing that. But the first year was hard. First year, we fought. We couldn't stand to see each other. We got to the point where we just dropped our son off at her mother's house and picked him up from her mother's house, so we didn't have to see each other. Everything she told me that they were doing pissed me off. Everything that I was doing with them, I'm sure she felt, frustrated by, because you feel judgy of the other, right? And so that's the other thing. I want to reiterate what Jenn is saying. Be a friend, because these people have to be friends again to raise their children. And so, but they're not going to be friends at first. It took us a year, and we were only together nine years. So
yeah. And Nora did not say like how old the kids are, but this couple's been married over 20 years.
I don't think it matters how old the kid is, because I think that divorce affects all family members the same. It's going to be weird to see their parents with other people. The one beauty of our situation is we broke up when Mr. Carter was a baby, which was tragic at the time. But to me, the payoff was that he doesn't remember us together. I'll say something to him about, back when your mommy and I lived together. And he goes, y'all live together? So, I mean, he's not mourning anything.
Yeah.
So there's a balance in that. But if you grew up with these people, and then now you have to see mom date another guy or dad with another woman, I mean, the responsibility is on them to work this out. Anyway, I know we're going on and on about it, Nora. Thank you. I mean, our first email, I could talk all day about it, but
no, I get it. I think that your first bit of advice of leave the party with the person you came to it with. I
Yep.
love that. And then my advice is, as much as possible, stay out of the drama. Be
Yeah.
a friend, stay out of the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. I absolutely
try to
agree.
be a distraction for your friend and a sounding board and a listening place, but not someone who,
Right.
gets the team riled up.
And I got to give Katie's girlfriend a nickname. Because I really love her. I mean, she's fantastic. And so I don't talk about her enough, but I think that you also have to respect them. Like, I respect her. And so,
Oh, yeah.
so
That's
that's hard.
fast forward.
I know, but I was
That's
just gonna
years
say,
down the road to be
well, no,
to be
but
there.
well, that's what I'm saying. You got to plant the seeds now for that, right?
Yeah,
So, like I said, when
because they will move on.
because yes, because like I said, I have friends who still say I like y'all better together than apart, and I mention that, but you don't want to say that too much because you're disrespecting the new relationships that you got to look forward and not look back, right? And so, yes, I will ask her what nickname she wants, because she has to be part of the conversations, because she's a integral part of my son's life, but see, that took a long time. And she's not the first girlfriend to come along. So it helped that I was a total bitch to the people before her. So she gets to she gets to
There's
benefit
the
from
rebound buffer that got
Yeah.
all the angst, and now she's like,
Still.
"Oh, see, I came way after all
I
that."
still can't say that woman's name, but anyway.
Yeah, don't.
Thank you, Laura, for the email.
Yes, thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to us, we would love to be able to help you along. That's what friends do, right? So email us, melissa@thefriendzy.com, or Jenn with 2 N's, Jenn @thefriendzy.com. All right. And this is your reminder to share your story. Open up about your stories with a trusted friend, whether that is something that you're going through that you need advice on, or whether that's hormones.
What? What are you talking about?
Open up. Let's talk about it. It feels a whole lot better to share your story. And now, Melissa Carter, drum roll, please. She has this week's mirror mantra.
Yes, I do have the mirror mantra. I'm going to do it very quickly. I do want to say that we celebrate friendships over 40. So what Jenn just said is about friendships over 40. We want to help you strengthen those friendships because we need them at this age moving forward. Okay, my mantra for today, very simple. I'm a better me now than I was a year ago.
Yes, girl. I love that.
Now, I'm a better me now than I was a year ago because regardless of what you've been through, you have more education, you have more wisdom, you have done something, and you need to celebrate yourself for doing it. Again,
Okay, give it to me one more time.
all right. I'm a better me now than I was a year ago. And the beauty of that mantra is you can say it every year and you'll be correct. So that is something that is a benefit moving forward. So this year, I'm a better me than I was a year ago. Next year, you know what? I'm even a better me than I was a year ago. We need to see age as an asset, not a deficit. And that's what this mirror mantra is about.
Namaste. Love it. Words to live by.
Is there a friend of yours who would enjoy this episode? Please share it with her. We want to get the word out about the Friendzy. On Apple Podcasts, here's what you do, because most of our listeners listen on Apple Podcasts. You look for the 3 dots at the top right corner when you're in Apple Podcasts, and you see a drop-down menu. All right, you click on the 3 dots, then the drop-down menu says share episode. So when you're on the Friendzy, you see the 3 dots, you click on them, the drop-down says share episode. You click that, and then you select the green messages option, text it to a friend. It's simpler when you do it than hearing it, but anytime that you have a problem with sharing it, with listening to it, with downloading it, with going to our YouTube page, whatever it is, melissa@thefriendzy.com, Jenn@thefriendzy.com. We're here to help you. We're accessible, so you don't have to do it on your own.
And we'd love for you to check out our Friendzy YouTube channel, videos there, extended interviews. And if you sign up for our weekly email, we can send the episodes right to your inbox. And we include links to deeper discussions on things for all of the topics that we cover. So sign up today at thefriendzy.com.
And when you sign up for thefriendzy.com, we are starting a brand new Facebook page, Friendships Over 40, where you can safely spend time with other women, get to know other women over 40. And the way you get access to that is by subscribing to the email at thefriendzy.com, because that's the only place that we're going to send that link out. And we want to thank listeners who have subscribed to our email list at thefriendzy.com. Maricela Fortune, Christy Fulford, and Lindsay Prime. See, Maricela, I almost screwed your name up there. But we thank you all for being part of the show.
Yes, and they don't even know that we're going to give shout outs. We just go in there to the email list and see who's recently signed up and shout you out on the show. So thank you so much.
The Friendzy is hosted and produced by me, Melissa Carter, and her, Jenn Hobby.
Sound editing by Bo Johnson.
Original soundtrack produced by Tammy Hurt for Placement Music, written and recorded by Mark Daniels.
The Friendzy celebrates friendship. Let me try that again. Why is this hard for me to read?
You wrote it. No, I'm just
I know. The Friendzy celebrates friendships over 40. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We appreciate you so much.
All right. Until next week, trust your gut,
share your story,
and stop
lying about your age, girl.
Yay!
Yes.
All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.